In October 1985, a quiet Mississippi college town was shaken by the brutal murder of 18-year-old Stacie Pannell, a beloved student and marching band member. Found lifeless in her dorm room, the case quickly spiraled into a tangled web of shocking confessions, psychological manipulation, and unsettling twists. Was it a crime of passion or a false confession coerced under pressure? As accusations flew and retracted, confessions muddied the truth. Stacy's tragic death became one of the most controversial murder cases of the decade. What really happened that fateful night, and was justice truly served? Let's find out. Stacie Pannell's life began on September 5, 1967, in the small town of Ripley, Mississippi. Born into a loving family, Stacy was the eldest of 3 siblings, with a younger brother and sister. She grew up in a close-knit household where the siblings spent considerable time together and developed strong relationships. Stacy was known for her energetic nature, bubbly personality, and active involvement in school activities, making her a beloved figure in her community. Stacy's sister said this in an interview. She didn't have just one best friend. All of her friends were best friends. She loved life and was always trying to help others less fortunate. She was just tender-hearted and good. She had numerous friends and was passionate about extracurriculars, including the school's marching band. Here she became proficient in performing with a decorative wooden rifle, a skill that would later play a tragic role in her life. After graduating from high school in 1985, Stacy pursued higher education at Northeast Mississippi Community College in Boonville, a short 30-minute drive from Ripley. Eager to embrace the college experience fully, she chose to live in the dormitory despite the proximity to her hometown. Her first few days at college were filled with excitement and newfound freedom as she made friends quickly and even joined the college's local marching band, continuing her passion from high school. On the night of October 7, 1985, Stacy attended a marching band training session after school. Following the session, she met with her boyfriend, Tommy Osborne, and later went to a party on campus. At around 12:30 a.m., Stacy returned to her dormitory, a night like any other, filled with laughter and bonding with friends. She shared her room with her friend, Amy Wheeler. At 2:30 a.m., Amy Wheeler returned to the dormitory after the party. Unfortunately, she had lost her keys and had to knock on the door to be let in. When Stacy didn't respond to the knocking, Amy initially thought Stacy was fast asleep. After a few minutes, Amy knocked on the door of the adjacent room, which shared a common bathroom with their dorm room. Stephanie Alexander, the student in the next room, answered Amy's knock. Both girls were puzzled by Stacy's silence, so they entered the room through the bathroom. Inside the room, they were greeted by an eerie scene. The room was pitch dark, except for the dim glow of a small lamp. As Amy walked closer to Stacy's bed, she immediately sensed something was wrong. Stacy lay on the bed, but one of her legs was awkwardly hanging off the side. As Amy approached, the horrifying reality became clear. Stacy was lying in a pool of blood. Terrified, Amy ran out of the room screaming for help. Soon, other students in the dormitory guard arrived and 911 was called. By the time the police arrived, they found Stacy dead, and the room showed clear signs of a violent altercation. Blood was smeared across the bed, a pillow covered her face, and her underwear had been pulled down, leading investigators to initially suspect a sexual assault. The initial inspection of the crime scene revealed more clues that added to the mystery. The police discovered that someone had cut a hole in the mosquito netting of the window next to Stacy's bed. Her wooden rifle, which she had used in marching band performances, was found nearby, wrapped in a towel and covered in blood. The investigators quickly theorized that the rifle was the murder weapon.
I think the initial blow delivered to Stacy was done with the butt like this because the butt portion of the rifle is more consistent with the ability to inflict the injuries that were inflicted. So if you held it to the barrel end and got it swinging, it would be a formidable weapon.
A single short hair was also found on Stacy's bed, offering a potential lead. However, as investigators dug deeper, they realized that the scene didn't add up. The hole in the mosquito netting was far too small for an adult to have climbed through. The window was also situated at a height that would make it difficult for someone to break in from the outside unnoticed. Furthermore, forensic experts found no traces of male biological material on Stacy, casting doubt on the theory that she had been sexually assaulted. As the investigation progressed, forensic experts confirmed that the wooden rifle was likely the murder weapon. However, they found no defensive wounds on Stacy's body, suggesting she may not have resisted the attack. With no solid evidence and DNA analysis not yet commonly used at the time, the case became more challenging to solve. Detectives were left with little to go on. With few leads, the police began fingerprinting every male student and staff member at the college. Since the dormitory was women-only and required a special key for entry, men could only enter under certain circumstances, like being let in by residents or working as college employees. The task of fingerprinting hundreds of potential suspects proved difficult and time-consuming. Despite their best efforts, no matching fingerprints were found at the crime scene. Frustrated, the detectives turned to a psychologist to create a profile of the killer. According to the profile, the attacker was likely a young man, aged 20 to 24, with a strong physical build and no prior criminal record. The psychologist believed the crime was unplanned and opportunistic, leading detectives to further doubt the break-in theory, as the hole in the mosquito netting was still too small for the supposed attacker. As the investigation stalled, fear spread across the college campus. Female students were terrified of being the next victim, and the inability of the police to find the killer only fueled the panic. In their search for potential suspects, the investigators looked closely at Stacy's boyfriend, Tommy Osborne. However, after searching his room and interviewing him, they found nothing to suggest he was involved. Stacy's friends corroborated that the couple rarely argued and seemed happy together. The police then learned of Stacy's previous relationship with a young man named Ben, her high school sweetheart. Ben had been heartbroken after Stacy broke up with him just a few months before starting college. The breakup had been difficult for Ben, who had even given Stacy a ring, hoping to marry her someday. Despite his attempts to reconcile, Stacy stood firm in her decision to move on. Investigators questioned Ben, and his alibi seemed airtight. He claimed to have been asleep at home on the night of the murder, and his mother confirmed this. However, detectives considered the possibility that Ben could have snuck out, committed the murder, and returned home undetected. Ben agreed to take a polygraph test, but the results were inconclusive, leaving detectives with more questions than answers. Although Ben became the prime suspect, the lack of concrete evidence meant the police couldn't charge him with the crime. As the months dragged on, the case remained unsolved. However, a critical re-examination of the evidence revealed something peculiar. When forensic experts analyzed the cut in the mosquito netting more closely, they noticed that the fibers were pointing outward, not inward. This indicated that the netting had been cut from inside the room, not outside, casting further doubt on the theory of a break-in. The detectives then decided to bring in Steve Rhodes, a well-known law enforcement officer from Illinois with expertise in neuro-linguistic programming techniques. Rhodes had built a reputation for his unique interrogation methods, and the detectives hoped he could help solve the case. Rhodes interrogated 4 key individuals: Amy Wheeler, Stephanie Alexander, Ben, and Tommy Osborne. During the interrogation, Stephanie's behavior began to raise red flags. Although she initially stuck to her story of going to bed after asking Stacy's friends to keep the noise down, Rhodes sensed she was withholding something. After relentless questioning, Stephanie finally cracked. She confessed to the unthinkable. She had killed Stacy. Stephanie's confession stunned the investigators. She revealed that after Stacy's friends had left, she had returned to Stacy's room to chat. At some point, their conversation turned to Tommy Osborne, Stacy's boyfriend. When Stephanie complimented Tommy, Stacy became upset and accused her of trying to steal him. The argument escalated, and in a fit of rage, Stacy slapped Stephanie. In retaliation, Stephanie grabbed the wooden rifle next to Stacy's bed and struck her with it. The fight quickly turned deadly as Stephanie continued to hit Stacy repeatedly until she collapsed onto the bed, bleeding profusely. Realizing the gravity of what she had done, Stephanie panicked. She tried to stage the scene to make it look like an intruder had broken in, raped, and killed Stacy. She pulled down Stacy's underwear, placed a pillow over her face, and cut the mosquito netting to make it look like a forced entry. She then wiped the wooden rifle clean and burned her bloodied t-shirt and the cut piece of netting in the bathroom, masking the smell of smoke with perfume. Stephanie's confession brought the investigation to a dramatic close. However, just days after her arrest, she wrote a letter to her boyfriend claiming that the murder was an accident and that she had been under the influence of energy pills at the time. She also claimed that Steve Rhodes had used hypnotic techniques during the interrogation to coerce her into confessing.
Did you kill Stacie Pannell?
No, I did not.
She insisted that she could not have killed Stacy and that her original confession was false, stating that the police had taken advantage of her vulnerable mental state, combined with the effects of the energy pills she had taken, to manipulate her into confessing. Stephanie stated that she had no memory of the murder and that everything she had said during her confession had been fed to her. This sudden retraction of her confession threw the case into chaos. Stephanie's legal team argued that her confession had been coerced and that she was not of sound mind when she admitted to the crime. They also pointed to her claim of taking energy pills as a potential reason for her altered state of mind. Despite her claims, the police and prosecutors believed Stephanie's original confession. They had her letter, in which she detailed the events of the night and admitted to striking Stacy in the heat of an argument. Prosecutors also highlighted the evidence found in Stacy's dorm room that matched the timeline and details Stephanie had given. For them, the staged break-in and the way Stacy's body had been found pointed directly to Stephanie's involvement. The fact that she had hidden the piece of mosquito netting and burned her shirt was seen as clear indicators of her attempt to cover up the crime. In court, Stephanie's defense team argued that her confession was not only coerced, but also false, presenting psychological experts who testified about the possibility of false confessions under intense interrogation techniques. They claimed that Stephanie was not in the right state of mind during her confession, having been manipulated into saying things she didn't believe to be true. They also pointed to her past clean record, suggesting that it was unlikely for someone with no history of violence to suddenly commit such a brutal act of murder. The prosecution, however, laid out the events exactly as Stephanie had confessed. They presented the letter she had written to her boyfriend and reiterated the details she had provided during her interrogation with Steve Rhodes. They also brought forward the forensic evidence from the crime scene, particularly the blood-stained wooden rifle and the mosquito netting, which aligned with Stephanie's confession. The trial lasted several months, during which time the media closely followed the case, labeling it a shocking and tragic example of how emotions and conflicts can quickly spiral out of control. Public opinion was divided. Some believed Stephanie's confession was genuine and that she was guilty of the crime, while others felt that she had been unfairly pressured into admitting something she hadn't done. In the end, the jury found Stacie guilty of second-degree murder. She was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years. Despite her conviction, Stacie continued to maintain her innocence, claiming that her confession had been falsely implanted in her mind by the interrogator. Her legal team filed multiple appeals over the years, but none were successful in overturning her conviction. Stacie Pannell's family, devastated by their loss, found some solace in the belief that justice had been served. They remembered Stacie as a bright, energetic young woman with a promising future, tragically cut short by a senseless crime. Her death left a lasting impact on the community of Ripley and Northeast Mississippi Community College, where she was a beloved student and marching band member. To this day, debate surrounds the case. Some believe Stephanie Alexander was guilty, while others question whether her confession was coerced, leaving the true story of October 7, 1985, shrouded in mystery and speculation. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe for more content, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update.